Are you ready for a big change? Is it that time in your life where you want to embrace your second act and unleash a midlife reinvention, not a midlife crisis? Hi, everyone. I'm Sharri Harmel. I'm the creator and host of the Extraordinary Women podcast show. Now, this is the place where women age 50 plus can get the support, the inspiration, and ideas to reinvent and create their own fabulous next chapters. So let's jump into our topic for the day. Midlife should not be a time of crisis, but a time of transformation and growth. You know, it's that time in your life when you have the opportunity to rediscover your passions, maybe redefine your purpose. Why are you still here? And create that life that truly reflects who you are at this particular stage of your life. You know, it's time to not get past feeling stuck or being unfulfilled. You know, whether you want to start a new business, you want to start a new career, you want to pursue a lifelong dream that you've had, this is your time and the possibilities are endless. Don't let fear or self-doubt hold you back. You have the wisdom. You have the experience, we've all got it, looking in the rearview mirror, and you also have the resilience to create your reinvention. And it's never too late. I'm a perfect example, but you have to slow down and listen to your heart. So here are a few tips that I think will help you on your next chapter reinvention journey. Number one, patience is required. Massive amount of patience is required. Why? Because change takes a lot of time. And I kind of equate it to like renovating, something in your home as an example. I'm renovating my Boston apartment. And honestly, it feels like it's going to take forever. Like I might have this backdrop that we have behind us as long as, I'm on this earth because it is going that slow. Now I can imagine myself sitting in my living room, creating a video for all of you in one of those newly made rooms that are pretty versus what I'm living in currently. I can see myself, entertaining my friends in my new library dining room. I can see it all. That's the plan, right? You have it for your next chapter, but nothing is moving as fast as I'd like it to. And so I have to remind myself over and over, be patient, Sharri, because the same happens when we want to create a new or improved next chapter. I don't care if it's a healthy eating program, you want to switch things up, or a new exercise program that maybe will get you a little bit closer to good health, or making new friends, or something as big as starting a business. It takes time before you see really, truly noticeable changes. And in that wait, you get lots of stops and starts. So embrace patience. Now, I call this place between where you are today and where you want to be. So between the vision and the reality that you wish for, I call that place between those two the gap. And minding the gap, because a lot of our time, I should say, is spent in the gap, but it takes loads more time than we expect. And that's where patience comes in. It also takes more energy and possibly even more exploration, research, if you want to call it that, than we expect when we started on this next chapter journey. Well, let me just give you an example. For my next chapter journey, I mentioned I moved to a different apartment that's right across the street from the Boston Public Garden. And I had this plan in my head. That was part of my vision. I was going to go out and walk around the public garden, around the Boston Commons every day. That would fill me up with beauty because both parks are very, very pretty, as well as getting much needed exercise. But I forgot a couple of things. Number one, I forgot that I don't like getting up really early in the morning and going out and exercising. I like my tea in the morning. And also, I realized that, I moved in the middle of the summer, and unfortunately this summer has ended up to be one of the hottest ever, as it's been all across the United States. So I would try to walk midday. I would try to walk towards the end of the day, and both of the experiences I had when I walked at those times of the day were not fun. It was actually kind of gross. I ended up like a sweaty mess. There was no way that was refueling anything. It was actually depleting me, and I didn't want to go. And so consequently, I didn't go. I really didn't. So I had to do some analysis. Is this, number one, is this something that is still at the top of my list? And just like your next chapter goals, you are going to have to do the same thing at various times. Is this something I really want? And when you get stuck, you have to do that assessment. Is this something I still really want? And if so, is there a different way to get there? So in my case, it meant that I had to adjust my morning routine because it was still important to me. And therefore I have to walk earlier in the day so that I'm not walking in the height of heat, so to speak. But how do we figure out if a goal is still important to us? And this leads to tip number 2. You have to go back and really do some soul searching to ask yourself why you really want something. That's super important because the why will often determine whether or not it stays at the top of the list. Because sometimes we want things not for ourselves, not for something that really matters to us, but something external. And so it's super important for you to go in and ask yourself, why do I want this? Why is this important to me? And if the answer, is pretty clear, ask yourself, does it trump other things that I want? Does it, as an example, very simplistic example, but if I still wanted to walk in the public garden every day, look at the flowers, look at the gardens, look at the statues while getting exercise, was that more important than me sitting and reading my Wall Street Journal and drinking my cup of tea in the morning? And the answer was yes. So, it's important to do that because our goals sometimes get stuck and we have to slow down and do some self-assessing. Now, I'm going to share with you that I created a little game called the Next Chapter Dreams Card Sort, which is going to be available on my website very soon. It's a card sort game to help you to prioritize all those things that you want in your next chapter. And if you subscribe to the Extraordinary Women magazine, you will hear as soon as it comes, out of the publisher's hands, so to speak. But the cards, I think, will help you to determine what are your top choices, what are your second tier choices, and they move around, right? For example, let's say I decided that it wasn't important for me to go walk around the garden. I realized it really didn't matter that much to me. I needed to go find a class where I was working out with other people. So all of a sudden, my goals shift based on what it is that I want. And that's what this next chapter card sort actually helps you to do. You have to also, I'll share that you have to kind of do this exercise over and over when you're creating your next chapter. Because when you start to explore something that you're absolutely sure in the planning stage that you want, you may hit roadblocks. And that's the point when you have to go back and assess what is it that's most important to me in my next chapter. I think you're going to love this card sort. It's super fun, but more important, every time you do the card sort, you will end up with a very clear list of top desires that you want for your next chapter. Now, tip number 3, to get to where you want to be for your next chapter often requires collaboration or support from others. None of us, even if we live alone, can easily shift something major in our lives without involving other people. Using my recent home renovation as an example, I thought by now the renovation plans would be drawn up, they'd be submitted for board approval, and the demolition would have been started, if not even completed. Instead, my decorator hasn't even prepared the plans because I never thought to ask whether he had CAD design capabilities. 6 weeks and 2 long meetings later, I learned his part-time CAD capable designer is the only one in the office who has those skills, and she's been busy. And then she went on a very long vacation. Well, the same thing can happen with your next chapter reinvention plans. Maybe you want to start a side gig as an example, but you need a website redo. You might need an illustrator. How do you find one of those, right? Maybe you have to learn about a new social media platform. I have to learn about Instagram. I just was at a dinner with a couple of friends, and one of them is Sandra Sigmund with La Fleur. And I asked her if she does all her own IG posts, and she does. That told me that I needed to learn that social media platform better because in essence, it would be more personalized and I would, go in a different direction possibly. All the examples that I just mentioned require someone else to be involved, someone else you have to loop in. And if you're married, you have a partner, you have to get your partner in on this next chapter plan because you're not doing it in isolation by any stretch. If you plan to stay married, you want to be together in this next chapter plan that you have. So you always have to collaborate with others to make your idea become a reality. Even something as silly as, say, picking up a new hobby. Let's say it's pickleball you want to start. You have to learn, what equipment do I need? Where are the people that I'm going to be playing with? Are there entry-level lessons, if I don't know how to play pickleball? Maybe it's something that you look at and say, you know what? Just like my walking in the garden was both beauty and exercise, maybe pickleball is something that you could do with your partner so that your partner and you spend more time together, but you're also getting good exercise. You need a support team. Even if you are absolutely convinced that you are on a solo venture, like writing a book. I'm telling you, writing a book is a joint venture, a very big joint venture. You think you're going to be doing it all on your own, but there is going to be collaborations and connections that you need to make with others. So continually building your support team, I'm telling you, will help you to make your next chapter all it is that you want it to be. Tip number 4, it's all about choices. And unless you embrace the limitations of having too many choices, you won't be able to make any decisions. Now, research tells us the brain can't effectively handle lots and lots of choices. Yet, as humans, we have convinced ourselves that the more choices we have, the happier we will be. Actually, research shows very clearly that the opposite is true. Studies have shown that our brains actually shut down when presented with too many choices, which leads us to be unable to make decisions. So what do you do when your journal is filled with pages and pages of ideas that you have for your next chapter? I'm going to suggest that you try out 3 ideas, and you can use your card sort to really pick those 3 ideas. But I want you to try out 3 ideas at a time by prototyping them. Now that's a fun word. I love prototyping. But what does it mean? It's actually an engineering term. And it's a term where the engineer will build a sample to see how something works. It's a very simplistic definition. My son would be horrified. But the engineer builds a sample to see how something works before committing to major production. Now for you, prototyping will mean that you are going to try on some of the ideas that you have to decide if they are actually a good fit for you. And I say start with 3, because if you start prototyping, say 10 choices or 10 ideas that you have, you will feel so scattered, honestly, that you have no idea what to do next. So start with 3, and then maybe even narrow it down, 1 or 2. And I say more than 1 though, because that gives you the ability to compare and contrast. You have a sense, do I like this? Do I not? Which do I like better? Which goes off the table as an option, out of the journal as an option, and which is going to stay? So prototyping really means that you're going to try on an idea, almost like it's an outfit, to see if it's a good fit for you. Let's go through a couple of examples. Let's say you want to open a floral shop, or you want to become a floral designer. Ask your local, the floral shop near you that you love, if you could volunteer in their shop for a few days. Maybe you shadow a designer. We do it all. We suggest our children do that when they're in college, and it's time for us to do it again. Maybe you actually get your hands dirty and you show up when the owner of the shop shows up, and you leave when the owner of the shop leaves, so that you have a really good idea of what is that woman's day like? What is that man's day like? See what's happening. Do I like the work? Do I like making flower arrangements for other people, multiple flower arrangements for other people throughout the day? What is happening with the supply? Where are they getting their flowers? When are they getting their flowers? How do you manage people, etc., etc.? Maybe you have the dream to live in Paris part-time, like I do. Set up some phone conversations or coffees with people who have done what you're thinking of doing. I've had a number of conversations with women who were envisioning doing what I do, which is living part-time in Paris. And we've chatted about what are the challenges, what are the benefits, what is life like when you alternate between 2 different cultures. So connect with someone who is doing something that you envision or you're dreaming of doing. Here's an example. I fell in love with several of those chateau life kind of YouTubers during COVID. I'm telling you, a couple of them I still absolutely love, but I watched them like all day long, and I envisioned myself buying a chateau. I don't know where I thought I was getting the money, but I was going to buy a chateau and renovate the chateau, and oh my God, what a life, right? But after I went to a chateau, I stayed in that chateau for 4 days, and I quickly realized that the amount of work, the constant maintenance, the coldness, because those chateaus were built at a time period where there was not central heating, and the amount of money that you needed to live that life or come up with ways to monetize that chateau just really wasn't anything that felt good to me. It felt like incredibly like the most difficult job in the world. And that wasn't something I want to take on at this chapter of my life. So trying on whatever it is that you're thinking of doing before you jump in with both feet helps you to decide, oh, that's still on the list, or no, that is kicked to the curb, so to speak. Now you can't, like I said, can't try on all of them at once. Just start with 3, and maybe start with what you think are your top 3 choices, and then start eliminating it. Tip number 5, continually reassess your next chapter vision. What you create today, what you have in mind today that will be, you're absolutely sure will be so perfect, might change as time passes. My next chapter card sort will help you, because you can take it over and over and over as your life shifts and changes. Think about it. What you wanted when you were in your 30s or your 40s is probably vastly different from what you want today. And I find that the end of our lives are not the end. I don't want to be morbid, but the next chapter segment of our lives can be as changeable as the very beginning of a person's life. Things happen. We have so many more people that are involved in our lives. The kids, we might have elderly parents we're taking care of. We might have friends that need us. We might have our own health issues, our partner's health issues, whatever it is. We can get thrown all kinds of different issues that requires us to change that vision, to change that plan that we probably didn't have to deal with, honestly, when we were in our 30s or 40s. Life sends us new events all the time, and we just have to be open, flexible, and adjustable to continually shift those next chapter plans. Be open to possibilities, but also be comfortable with change. I always like to say, I thought I had it all figured out, and look what happened this time. So, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean it in a positive way, because I've gotten to this stage now in my life where I look at a shift and I think, oh gosh, this is the universe telling me to go a different direction. So I think it's something definitely to address. Successful reinventions require that you adhere to exquisite self-care. You have to embrace that positive mindset all the time. Just how I described that, I now look at that kind of event that went on in my life as something that's shifting me away from what I thought I wanted and maybe into something even better. That's a positive mindset. So adhere to that exquisite self-care. Take care of yourself. Take care of your boundaries. Have that positive mindset and embrace change as something good. Reinvention, as I said, is about discovering your true passions and pursuing them fearlessly. We have way more courage at this point in our lives to really step out of our comfort zones than we ever had, probably at any other point in our life. Be ready to try new things, because with every small step you take, I'm telling you, you will build momentum. And that momentum is what creates a life that truly fulfills you. I want to thank you for tuning in today, and I hope that you feel even more confident that you can make your next chapter one of your best. Now, if you like this episode, the show today, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, because that tells both YouTube as well as the podcast platforms to promote this video. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe to our show, and then you'll receive notices of future episodes. Remember, start on those next chapter dreams today and watch your life evolve into something extraordinary. A biento.